Hello and welcome to Universal Love Law. I'm very excited today to be breaking down what a kite is in one's chart. So if you have a kite, this is a geometrical pattern that you would see in your chart, in your astrology chart. And so basically it consists of 2 sextiles and 3 trines and 1 opposition that ultimately anchors all of the energy into forming it into a kite. So the thing about geometrical patterns like grand trines, yads, and kites and things like that are they hold a very important significance in a person's chart. It really directs the way a person's life plays out. And once a person is able to understand their geometrical pattern in their chart, they'll see what works for them and they'll also be able to see their challenges. So, first and foremost, I'm going to go into what a kite is, and then I'll be able to, like, the characteristics of a kite. So, this is what one would see, and this is the way the lifetime plays out for a person with a kite in their life. And I'm going to use the example towards the end with a Redd Foxx, which is a comedian from back in the days. And so I wanted to utilize his chart once I found out that he has a kite. So I did some research and I'm going to break down the kite that is in his astrological chart. And it makes a lot of sense. The birth time showed as excellent on astro charts. So I'm going to jump in that later. But first and foremost, the characteristics of the kite is a person who is very, very driven. These people are born to be driven because the focal points in their life, which is this kite energy, is really willed together through this opposition. As you can see here on the screen, that red line in the middle shows the opposition. There's a little symbol on the side. And then also there's a large blue triangle. So trines always are harmony and very stimulating and easygoing. But trines can be not so helpful because sometimes it doesn't push us towards achieving greatness. We're just very lucky in that area. So things go so smoothly, sometimes we can get lazy. So the opposition that is in the trine, you see the red line that's going through that large blue line, blue triangle, is what's anchoring in opportunities. Because if you see at the very top of the grand kite, there are 2 sextiles. So those are that's the smaller triangle. You see 2 small triangles at the top, right? Ultimately, there are 3 trines happening and 2 sextiles and 1 opposition. So what does this mean? Overall, it means that there's a gift because trines represent gifts. And it does depend on what kind of trine energy you have. So it can be a grand water trine, it can be a grand earth trine, it can be a grand fire trine, it can be a grand water, earth, fire, air sign. It can be a grand air trine. So you want to look at the modality of your grand trine. It will showcase the actual talent that a person has. Because usually trines are gifts. Some in metaphysical contents would say that they're spiritual gifts that we've been given. Gifts that we're just very talented at naturally. That has been passed down through past lives or whatever one would imagine, right? In philosophy, our mind can go deep down that rabbit hole. But when we stay on this topic of the grand kite, we want to understand how does this energy signature play out in a person's personality. So we have someone here that is not only has this amazing gift with that grand trine, which is the large blue triangle. There's also two sextiles. And remember, sextiles always represent opportunities. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities presented or sought after. So once we understand the energy of the sextile and the opposition, which is causing the balance in it all, and it's also creating enough challenges for the person to go after and motivates them to go after something or to put things into action. So this is very important because when we have the grand trine, which is that large blue one, it makes a person lazy. They have this gift. They might not even utilize it. They might not even bring it into fluorescence, right? Whereas that opposition will force a person to wanting to go after because they will be presented with this uncomfortable, uneasy feeling. So grand kite people definitely have this fated energy. That's what one would say, because they have this natural gift and they're always being pulled towards it. They're being pulled towards accomplishing this in this lifetime. They may have had the opportunities laid out on a silver platter in past lives and did not take the effort. But this lifetime, that opposition within that trine and that sextile is going to force a person into moving towards their opportunities, which are those sextile energies. So this makes for a very creative person, but it also makes for a person who has major ups and downs in life. So it really does depend on what signs a person have in their kite. So, for example, let's say that your grand trine involves some of your personal planets, like your sun, your moon, your rising. This is very, very important to note that you will be affected very personally, consistently. Whereas, we feel our outer planets subconsciously, like Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. It's things that happen kind of behind the scenes. But when it comes to our personal planets, it really affects us. And so that's something very important to note. So kites will always be in the same polarity, either masculine, which is fire and air signs, meaning all of those points will have different signs, right? And so if they're in the fire or air signs, they're going to be masculine. If they're in the water earth signs, they're going to be feminine. And there's no mix of feminine and masculine when it comes to this energy. It's always going to be masculine only in the kite or feminine only. All right. And so let's jump right on in. I'm very, very excited. So first and foremost, these people there's an element of challenge and tension that opposition creates, to where the harmony within the trines forces a person to want to go after. So these people can lack a sense of purpose from the grand trine being so easy. But remember that opposition is always going to pull them into action. And these are people that usually run into problems that they feel are challenges that they need to face and triumph over. The conflicts are created due to the opposition of the planets. And usually the problem lies within themselves. So if you have a grand kite, you want to see what are the opposing planets, because this will be the focal point. The opposition will always be the focal point in which your opportunities arrive and where you can be in your own way. And your gifts is the main trine. The grand trine will be your gift. So depending on the element of the grand trine, it will really help one to know if they have a watery, emotional, intuitive, clairvoyant, all of these kind of abilities. Air, communicative, mental, stimulated, or a creator of written or spoken word. Or if it's fire, passion, expression. And if it's earth, it's practicality, building stability, and all of those things. So you want to look and see, where is the talent coming from? That large blue triangle will be your talent. The sextiles will be the opportunity. So you want to see what planets and what signs are in those planets, because that will direct where the opportunities are coming from. So if it's Mars sextiles, right? Or if it's Venus sextiles, it will be dealing with either Mars, which is action, and taking action and moving towards what you're driven towards, right? If it's Venus, it will be going towards opportunities presented for things you appreciate, or forms of arts, right? So it really depends on what the sextiles are, what the grand trine is. The sextiles will show the opportunity, direction. The grand trine, which is the large blue triangle, will show the talent or gift. And the opposition will show the way that person is being pulled, the resistance within themselves that's guiding them towards greatness. So grand kite people are here to triumph over all of the problems. And that is where I'm going to move towards Redd Foxx. So as you guys may or may not know, Redd Foxx is a comedian, and of his time, he was known to be raunchy and very street comedy-like. So he has connections with a lot of greats like Malcolm X, Lady Esther. He went to school with Lady Esther. Malcolm X, he was actually like really like like kind of a gangster thug street boy with Malcolm X, and did a lot of petty crimes just to survive. And so he made his way to the top, but everyone knows that, he suffered a lot with, he was on the show Stanford and Son, and he was very, very funny in his day. So he's very well known. He has connections with a lot of great people, and a lot of people were born into this lifetime that he experienced that were on their way and road to success. But it was not always easy for him, because he was kind of doomed at an early age, not having his mom. That kind of created a really negative effect on his behavior. And then he had a very negative relationship with money. Even in his heights of fame, he did owe the IRS lots and lots of money. And so it's very important to understand that when we're able to look at real life practical people and how these energies kind of played out for them, it makes us really understand astrology on a very deeper level, because it can play out based on the person, the personality. It's different case by case. But as I go through each of his signs and the signs that are within his kite, one would be able to truly understand how the kite plays out from the aspects, the pattern, and the formation. So if we take a look at his physical chart, I'm showing you guys how to spot the grand kite. You want to look at the focal point from the top, the opposition, which is the blue line through the middle. And then you also want to take a look at the green large triangle and the purple lines at the top. So the purple lines are the sextiles. So that's where his opportunities will be coming from. So as you can see there's also his large green triangle that's also within the kite. That is where his talent and his gift will come from. And for him, his talent and his gift was, of course, making people laugh, being very funny, being able to act. This is what made him Red Fox, Stanford and Son, super funny actor, right? And so ultimately, when we we want to take a look at the opportunities that are formed and also the opposition that's formed and his gift. So if we looked at his gift, first and foremost, he has a grand fire trine. So that's masculine. So his grand fire trine is his sun, moon, Chiron, if you can see that there. But he also has Mercury aspecting with his sun because his sun is 16 degrees Sagittarius and his Mercury is 17 degrees Sagittarius, right? So he has his sun and Mercury, which are both in Sagittarius. That's creating his ability to communicate and be very funny and be very detached, right? Because that Sagittarius is being reinforced and he has that ability to, tap into his very jolly and spontaneous nature that is very funny to others. And then so when we're taking a look at the other aspect of his gift, which is his Neptune and his moon. So remember, Neptune deals with the film industry, and it also deals with acting. It deals with creating illusions. So his storytelling, because his Neptune and moon are both in Leo. So he's able to affect a crowd because it's his emotions are there too. His moon is 15 degrees Leo, which conjuncts his Neptune 18 degrees Leo. So now we're starting to see that he has this gift of storytelling, making people laugh that can get him on the big screens. And he's a natural at it because Leo is the entertainer. It's the one in the spotlight. So he can be in the spotlight and feel comfortable emotionally. Like it's not uncomfortable for everyone to have eyes on him. So we're taking a look at this grand trine first to see this is the way that this is his gift. The sun conjunct Mercury is his ability to captivate the audience with his fiery, passionate energy. And it's trine, remember, so trine always brings forth harmony. So he naturally can make people laugh and fall out their seat. He's a great storyteller from that Neptune in Leo, and he's a great on stage in the public eye with that moon in Leo. So now we're starting to see, okay, he has the ability to actually be famous, be in the movies, and it was all fated for him. Also, when you take a look at his Chiron, which is a part of the grand water trine, right? The grand fire trine, which is his gift. It's in Aries. So he has a big ego. And so that is where he actually has to learn. Because remember, when we're talking about it being a kite, the grand trine, which is the large green square, is where his gift is coming from. So that would be his sun, his Mercury, and then Neptune and moon, and then Chiron. That's creating a big opportunity, and it's all in fire. So it makes sense why his gift would be, being able to make people laugh and being on stage. But the problem is his ego, okay? Because Chiron deals with the wounded aspects of ourself, and for him, it's in Aries. So he can be very funny, but at the same time, he could have been the butt of his own jokes. Or his ego is what ultimately kind of drove him towards a lot of life lessons. And this is why, if you take a look at the Chiron is the bottom point, the opposition point of the opposition here. So we have Chiron opposing Saturn. And it's Aries Chiron, which is his ego, and it's the shadow aspect of ourselves, our child innocence or something that happened in childhood that kind of affected us to where that's always the area of life that we'll be learning. And for him, it's with his ego. He may have not been able. And of course, remember, his mom left very early in age, and he was having a lot of troubles in school. And so it kind of speaks to the problems that he had with his mother, or not just his mother, but relationships with others, because that Chiron in Aries is in his seventh house of relationships. So him being able to assert himself, him being able to be himself unapologetically, he may have had a lot of problems where he challenged people, and he may have had a lot of falling out with people, being arrogant, right? That's what Chiron and Aries would teach one, and it really affect him long term, because remember, Saturn is the opposition to his Chiron. So what's willing his gift together, which is that grand trine, is his balance with relationships, because Saturn and Chiron is where his opposition is, that's willing in that kite energy. So that's where we learn that, okay, now we see this is the area of life in which he needs to learn the lessons. This is what's causing the challenges that is motivating him to keep going and to keep triumphing in his gift and talent, but it's always in needing to learn a balance, specifically in his case, because Saturn is in Libra. So the opposition that he has there, which is that blue line between Saturn and Chiron, his Saturn is in Libra in the first house. So he has to learn a lot about how to have balance and personal balance, okay? For him to achieve, for him to get further. And that is a lesson for him, because ultimately that's probably where he had to suffer a lot. Saturn deals with our karma. It deals with our suffering. It deals with our gifts and rewards due to hard work and effort. And it's very well known that he did sleep on rooftops, and do little gigs and work in comedy clubs, but he didn't have enough money to, survive. But it never stopped him. It never stopped his drive. He always felt, and and it's really interesting because it's his Saturn was there. Saturn will make a person disciplined into going after what he needs, and for him, what he needed to go after was understanding of his self. Right? Because that Saturn in his first house deals with his personality. So over time, he has to learn how to have balance within his personality. Balance being that Libra energy. Okay? So Saturn is teaching him that throughout his life. And it makes sense too, because we know that Red Fox had a very challenging time in the industry. He made a lot of bad decisions with money. That makes sense because, of course, his grand fire trine. Fire makes a person very frivolous with money. Now, if he would have had a more earth, he would have made better decisions. There's even a video of him getting everything repossessed, from his house, his cars, his jewelry. They did it on TV. And he did have a lot of support from his friends. Like, not only did Eddie Murphy, John Witherspoons and a couple other comedians help him out throughout his career, helping him to overcome, his problems and hardships with his, fiery spending habits, right? But also Eddie Murphy paid for his funeral because he had so much debt that he owed. And so I think it was like $3 million that he owed. When he died, he couldn't even afford his own funeral. So it makes sense when we look at his gift being that ability to make people laugh, right? He has fire. He has passion. He has that star presence and that star power, and it's in his emotions too. It's his Leo moon, the natural performer, the natural entertainer. But the problem deals with his relationship with himself, his arrogance, and his ego. So the opportunities always come through, because if you take a look at that sextile energy at the very top, we have Saturn, which is his personal self. Remember the balance, which is Libra in the first house, Saturn, Libra in the first house. His balance with his self always brings him opportunities. Saturn brings him opportunities a lot, because that is what is creating those purple lines to his sun, his Mercury, his Neptune, his moon. And so now it's all about understanding how to look at it, how the opportunities helped him in his life, right? So when we look at his Neptune and his moon, those are both in Leo in his 11th house of friendships and groups. So we see that his friends are what actually got him opportunities. That's where he was able to really have long-term relationships with greats, like actual greats. These are like household names. And him having that Neptune and moon there, his emotions and his creativity, he always would have opportunities of growth and be in circles of people that can get him into opportunities. Remember, that's that sextile energy. He has Saturn sextiling his Neptune and moon in the 11th house. So his friendships, groups, and circles is what brought him his fame and his notoriety, and always came through for him when he went down the deep end. Remember, Neptune deals with that deception and self-deception, illusion. And so here we have someone who was very frivolous with money, and he was not even aware of it. Even John Witherspoon had to get him out of debt before, and he just went right back into debt. But his friends were there for him. So we see that play out in his grand kite. Also, the other opportunity that is formed from Saturn, remember his balance within his personal self, Saturn, Libra in the first house, is the sextile with the Sun in Sagittarius and his Mercury in Sagittarius in the third house. So if you take a look at his third house, he has Sun and Mercury. And this is amazing because it makes so much sense. Remember, he has a grand trine in fire. That is his gift. His gift is his ability to, tap into that fire energy, make people laugh, act, be very passionate on stage. And it makes sense because the third house deals with local places, arenas. He started off in bars and clubs, getting his name known, having that Sun Mercury conjunction in Sagittarius in the third house created those opportunities where he can go find places around the city. That is what third house is, and communicate. And his communication is his Mercury in the third house, right? So he's communicating about what? Funny, spontaneous things. It's Sagittarius energy, right? He's able to relate to people because he has Saturn and Libra in his first house. So he had this very mature ability to relate to people, because remember, Saturn is your maturity level. And if it's in the first house, it makes a personality very mature. And so it just makes so much sense. And I really just hope that one can really understand how a kite can play out in your life. If you have a kite in your chart, start by breaking down that opposition. Where will you always be driven towards, and what will always be pulling you? Where is the lesson? Because remember, the opposition, which is that blue line in the middle of the kite, it keeps a balance by causing challenges that the opposing energy motivates the person into action. It motivates the person into tapping into that grand trine, which is the gift. And it depends. You want to look at your grand trine is water, fire, earth, or air. And then you really want to see where the opportunities are coming forth. For instance, in Red Fox's case, his opportunity was coming through his 11th house of friendships, his circles, and the local places is what gave him his fame. Those places where he started off, sleeping on rooftops, homeless, but doing comedy skits. And it eventually led him to the big screens. And it fulfilled his purpose because ultimately people with kites, you guys have purposes. Purposes that will help you to see the challenges that you have been avoiding. Things that you need to face in this lifetime. And that's a beautiful thing once you get it figured out. I will definitely let anyone know that is still watching the video. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope this information is helpful for you when you're understanding the breakdown of your aspects and the pattern formation in your chart. Having a kite, it makes you a very interesting, unique person with a very fated, destined gift that you must balance in this life. Opportunities are always going to be present due to that sextile energy. But there's a balance due to that opposition that you have to understand. So I'll let you guys know when I'm going to be offering readings for people in understanding their chart. Or I also may just do classes instead, but it all depends. I'll let you guys know. But thank you for tuning into Universal Love Law, and peace.